voice of FinTech.
Hello and welcome to Voice of FinTech America series. My name is Rudy Falad and I'm the founder of Voice of FinTech podcast. In this series, you will hear inspirational stories of entrepreneurs, investors, and incumbents, and ecosystem hub leaders from the United States or North America and LATAM. And this episode is hosted by David Yakobovitch from New York.
Welcome everyone back to the Voice of FinTech podcast, where we talk all things FinTech innovation globally. And today we are joined with Johnny Ayers, who's the CEO and founder of Socure. They are changing the FinTech innovation landscape, working with some of the biggest players. And in 2021, we know that unbanked, digital banking, and everything FinTech is hot. So Johnny, thanks for joining us on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, David.
Johnny, it's been such a pleasure to follow the progress and the results of your company. You recently raised in 2020 a massive new round of funding. You've grown from Chief Product Officer to CEO. Tell us a little bit about the change and growth at your company.
2020 was a crazy year for so many people for so many reasons. One of the largest changes that we saw at Socure was this massive acceleration of digital transformation, which should have taken 5 to 7 years, and that's what kind of the analysts were projecting. And we saw it all happen in about 6 months. And across banking, lending, major trading applications like Public, Stash, Robinhood, we saw astronomical growth rates as folks flooded to these new mobile ways of engaging with their financial life. That was kind of the positive side, right? It was this amazing kind of rapid growth. The kind of more nefarious side of what happens when everything moves to the internet or mobile was, we saw a crazy amount of stimulus fraud. We saw a wild amount of abuse related to PPP and folks creating fake accounts. When unemployment rates go up to 20%, algorithms have to be rewritten, retuned, because, we've never seen a vertical line growth of unemployment. And so it was a crazy year for a variety of reasons. Certainly we feel beneficial and fortunate to be in the position that we're in, to be able to, be the identity fraud AML provider of choice for so many of the leading fintechs, kind of broader financial services ecosystem.
It's incredible to see how 2020 became the year of digital only. And as you mentioned, that's caused the rise of Public and the growth of Stash and the pre-IPO movement of Robinhood. And there's been so much growth in this community-driven approach and shared investment philosophy. And as you mentioned, that has also created the rise of fraud. And that takes a lot of data and a lot of tracking and a lot of excellent analysis in AML and KYC to discover how to prevent it. So tell us a little bit about your products that are helping to mitigate fraud at some of the leading startups and enterprises.
Sure. So we've, from the ground up, built an end-to-end predictive analytics platform for classifying identity fraud and classifying the ability to split whether this is David or someone pretending to be David on mobile web, or kind of native.
No deepfake going on right here.
No, exactly. And so, massive team, 25% of our company, I think we're over 40 people now at our data science organization that are building a variety of services to be able to answer the question, is David a real person? And is this David presenting his identity, be it his PII or his physical document? In both cases, we're able to, with the highest degree of accuracy, verify that this is actually David. And so this is an internet agnostic problem, right? It's not unique to FinTech, but with the massive growth of not only the kind of the largest of large and the Robinhoods and Chimes, but, you see Bridget just raised a round of funding, right? You see Dave.com, you see Earnin, you see all of these kind of business models across FinTech that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? Like the technology wasn't capable to do these types of kind of $250, $500 loans, right? And make it profitable. All of these services need the ability to verify and originate identities in a customer friendly way, in a highly accurate way, in a highly regulated way that fits the needs of their bank or their issuer. And so, yeah, we feel very fortunate, kind of right place, right time. And, we just so happen to have spent the last 8 years building out our services to be able to be the best in the market related to identity verification and fraud prediction for so many of these fintechs that are going through exponential growth in this move to digital.
And the move to digital hasn't been only in North America. We've been seeing it in Europe, Asia Pacific, South America, Africa. The unbanked and digital banking is going everywhere. A lot of the startups I know that you named are traditionally focused on the North America market. Why are you seeing this shift not only in North America, but global as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at Stripe's growth globally, you look at Nubank in Brazil, you look at TransferWise taking over so much of like global remittance. I mean, even SoFi is buying, trading companies out of Hong Kong. I think that this is not a geographic or channel agnostic problem, in the world that we live in. But, look, we're all at home, right? Most of us are at home. The safe ones are at home. And, we're on our devices. We're tethered to them all day, every day. And so many of these services that were built web native or mobile native, this is what they were built for. They didn't expect it to go, this route overnight. TransferWise doesn't have banking networks, right? Like Chase does or Bank of America does. There's no Chime or SoFi branch that you can walk into. And so many of these services were really built for a purely web-based audience. And, the whole world has gone purely web-based in the last 8 months. And so, yeah, certainly a lot of us in the software and technology industry have been the benefactors of, this type of move. And certainly you're seeing it with some of the new IPOs across the FinTech ecosystem, with Affirm. Obviously, Robinhood's worth $30 billion. I think Stripe's worth $100 now. I saw an article the other day that was saying Square is worth more than Goldman Sachs. So certainly you're seeing real value being created, massive value being created from these fintechs.
Now let's dive deeper back into technology. We're hearing all about the business models, as you've mentioned, from infrastructure to payments and platforms. But the technology that your team is working on is critical to ensuring that these platforms and infrastructure are successful. They're not going down. They're not having money that's just being stolen. So when you talk about identity and fraud trends, it's all about data science and AI. And you mentioned you have this large team of very smart, talented PhD level data scientists who are helping prevent fraud. Myself, as someone in the finance space, I love looking at software like Stripe and seeing about Radar and their fraud technologies to realize, wait, could there be companies like Socure that are powering the fraud for these large fintechs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many problems you need to solve, right? And I think, we have picked a particular problem that we know is a binary classification problem, right? It's a clustering problem. It's an entity resolution problem, right? These are big data challenges and things that, teams of mathematicians and statisticians dream about, right? It's, we have 9 billion rows of data pushed to us every week, right? We have massive sets of information that we receive in terms of performance feedback data, who's good, who's bad, what type of bad from our customer base. And so, we've developed a feature generation engine, right, where we're developing independent variables that positively and negatively correlate to fraud. We've built from the ground up an entire ingestion engine of how we receive performance feedback, like the feedback loop from our customer. Our machine learning model building platform was developed exclusively in-house. So, we use hundreds of different machine learning algorithms from, your traditional logistic regression through different types of boosting algorithms, things like XG boosting, to really, really, really focus on how do we use all of these predictors, all of these different signals across email, device, credit header data, utility data, velocity data to verify that this is David. And so, we've just picked identity fraud and identity classification as the classification problem that we go after. And so there's a lot of kind of underlying technology that me and our head of data science talk about all the time. Like, could we apply this to lots of other binary classification problems? But, today, verifying an identity on the internet is an unsolved problem and a massive, vertical agnostic problem. And, one certainly that a lot of fintechs are quite happy that we wake up every day, thinking, living, dreaming, how do we solve this identity verification problem for them?
And now at Socure, you have multiple products that are focused on this identity verification and fraud. You have your intelligent KYC, your DocV, your Sigma synthetic fraud. How do all these products tie in together as a comprehensive solution for companies?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think Socure did differently, there's been a lot of companies that have kind of serviced a variety of pieces in the fintech ecosystem. There's folks that do just email, or just device, or just IP, or just credit data. And we actually took a much more difficult approach, which is looking at all dimensions of a consumer's identity, right? Because at the end of the day, the real David, you're like, hey, I'm presenting my identity. I just want to be onboarded as fast as possible and, provided the best customer experience. And for, the fintech, they want to say yes to as many good people as possible, and they want to perfectly classify all of their bad actors, right? They don't care whether it's an email problem or phone problem or IP problem or device problem. And so we've actually built out every single dimension of risk across the entire identity, which is hard, very, very hard, and has taken us many, many, many years. And so as we've built out every dimension, it's enabled us to build modules for email risk, for phone risk, for address, for device, for AML, for document classification. And when you package all of these together, they actually enable you in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different channels to verify an identity for David, right? Like if you look at, Amazon, you just use an email to open an account. Right? If you call into your bank and want to change your email or phone or address, you're just changing one element. So identity is a very dynamic problem where, some remittance companies don't collect social security number, right? You're buying a gift card. You do it with very limited identity information. And so by building out all of these different services, it allows us to solve this identity problem in a lot of different fintech contexts where they may either collect different PII, they may want to verify a particular element, they may have a particular risk pattern. And so we've developed all these different services to be able to really service fintechs in a variety of different ways across, different verticals that they solve, as well as kind of different identity and risk patterns that are unique to them.
Now, thinking about all these verticals, there is so much data, and having hot data is the big difference between getting good results and results that could be improved. Johnny, you mentioned you're getting 9 billion rows of new data every week, and that's continuing to expand. A lot of the trends we see in the data industry are the growth of digital twins and synthetic data generation and other techniques to expand those dimensions. What are some of these challenges that you've seen about growing your data, and where have you seen some of that success from a product standpoint that you'd like to share with our audience?
So I think that the first piece is, as a trusted partner to so many of these fintechs, right? Like fighting fraud is a network problem, right? And so Socure has, we're over 400 customers now, many household names that we mentioned before, right? Where we're getting a lot of feedback data. We're being told who's good, who's bad, what type of bad. And that feedback loop of known outcomes is one of the most tremendous, valuable assets in trying to stop bad actors and trying to deliver really good, seamless user experiences to our customers. But data cleanliness is a huge problem. It's not very sexy to talk about. But this is one of the challenges that the bureaus have, is that that's how synthetic IDs have actually been created, right? And so if that's the foundation for a lot of how identity works on the internet today, there's a lot of data cleansing. And so we use a variety of different unsupervised machine learning techniques to be able to cluster patterns to figure out these things anomalous. The nice thing is as you use unsupervised machine learning, you can then use semi-supervised, where you can start to basically look at clusters that the unsupervised machine is pulling apart. And then you can start to apply tests against it, right, to test those clusters. And so one of the things that we do, I think that's super unique, is that as we get feedback data from our customers, we don't just chuck it into a sample and a model and on we go. There's a lot of analysis that takes place relative to whether a particular bank or fintech or lender is actually good at labeling, because so much of machine learning is like a garbage in, garbage out problem. So there's a tremendous amount of insights and intelligence related to this part of our workflow of how much do we trust this data. As we buy data, we have to clean it. We do an exhaustive amount of testing for data that we acquire. And so these are the non-sexy things, right? Like, there's so many pieces of the pipeline to say, hey, we're really, really good at identity verification and fraud prediction. And a lot of it starts with, data cleanliness, right? There's a lot of automation that we're building, so we don't have too many PhDs in physics cleaning up data sets. But this is a big part of the challenge of how we're creating really, really clean sample sets of third-party fraud, of synthetic fraud, of account abuse, and that ability to do it over hundreds and hundreds of customers and tens or even hundreds of millions of rows of data enables us, to a smaller fintech or even a larger fintech. We just have seen so much more than they've seen at this point, right? We've probably already seen their customers 5, 6, 7 times. We've probably already seen the attacks that they've seen multiple times. And so it's a data. I mean, we are a big data company. And so there's a lot of challenges. We could probably do a whole podcast for many, many hours around the different types of data challenges we have in working to solve this problem.
Well, let's talk about the way forward and some sexy things, right? Late last year, you recently announced a new round of funding by some big names, Scale VP, Citi Ventures, Wells Fargo, and others. Tell us how that new round of over $30 million of capital is going to enable you to continue to grow at scale.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've been very fortunate to have a tremendous group of investor partners, Rory O'Driscoll from Scale, Dan Rosen from Commerce, both founders of their funds, Rob Ruckert from Sorensen that led the rounds, new strategics, Wells, Citi, MVB Bank. So we've been very fortunate to have a great group of capital partners, and then many other folks, right, that we don't have time to name. But most of that capital was really used this year to start to accelerate into new verticals. Identity is a vertical agnostic problem, right? We're seeing online gaming skyrocket. We're seeing e-health skyrocket. And so there's a bunch of other new verticals that we're pressing into. It's also really enabled us the opportunity to continue to build out our dimensionality of risk. Put a lot of money and effort and energy this year into building a world-class document verification service. So as you see more and more and more applications asking for a passport or driver's license, Socure is the technology behind a lot of them. And so we're very, very excited about that. Certainly as more things move native, we spent a lot of effort and energy building out services in our iOS and Android SDKs. And look, we're growing as our fintechs are growing, right? Like as they have needs, as they have wants. One of the largest digital banks, we initially built our Velocity service for them on a single tenant basis and are now exposing it out on a multi-tenant basis to our entire network. Right? We took a group of fintechs and some larger banks, and collectively we built our synthetic ID service with them in partnership with them, right? Targeting specific attack vectors that they're seeing. And so, we're getting to a scale where, with these large round of funding, about half of it is spent in go-to-market and about half of it is at the rate that we're growing, we get to continue to plow more and more and more into futuristic R&D and product and technology innovation, which is the sales is nice, but like the solving hard problems is certainly very, very, very fun as well and very rewarding.
And also what's very fun is online gaming. I can tell you we've seen this year how DraftKings went IPO with their SPOC, and online gaming just continues to grow as we're a digital first society, and you've started to get into the online gaming as well. Why is that an important area that needs services that Socure provides?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in any regulated industry, right? Be it banking, issuing, trading, gaming, the need to verify who you're doing business with, just not only from a fraud risk, but from an anti-money laundering risk, is really important, I think, just for society. And when you think about gaming, you can move a lot of money, right, in a very short period of time. And so, the regulators in gaming are really keen to know that this is David, right, coming in to bet, play blackjack, bet on horses, bet on the Cowboys game on Sunday. It's super vital, and for the operators, they want to be able to verify the largest number of good consumers, right, with the lowest amount of risk. And so similarly to what we've done across kind of the FinTech ecosystem, DraftKings, FanDuel, all the big kind of major operators have kind of the same problem that Venmo or Stash or the Cash App, like they kind of all have the same problem, right? Which is, how do you verify, the totality of the U.S. adult population in a friction-free, consumer-friendly way that fits within the regulatory framework? And so gaming fits very well in Socure's wheelhouse of, high risk, high transaction volume, heavily regulated, high valued customers. And so, gaming just made a lot of sense. I think, when you print multiple trillions of dollars, right? In states like New York, I think Governor Cuomo said the other day, they have a $15 billion deficit. You're gonna see states have to find new revenue streams. And we see gaming and online gaming just being a massive growth vector just in general. But in our world, as they race, as operators race state by state by state to be the first in each of these states, it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. And we feel fortunate, similar to, how we've grown with FinTech. We're really excited and feel fortunate to be a part of that growth going forward. And then we also see like the move to contactless payments, right? The move away from cash. And what does that mean for actually retail casinos? And so, we view a world, you walk into Nugget or MGM or the Wynn, you take a picture of a QR code, or, they push you an SMS using a geofence, you download and provision yourself into like the MGM wallet, or whatever casino is. They verify your identity, you bind your ID to payment credentials, and, you just walk around the casino playing slots, playing blackjack. And so we actually see this interesting convergence of how identity plays in safe gaming, both in digital and even in this kind of blending of mobile and retail in casinos going forward.
Now, as the former chief product officer of Socure, would you tease our audience today with some of the upcoming public roadmap or future releases of your product that we should get excited about in 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in 2021, we are going to deliver the first machine learning model that solves for the totality of verifying 100% of good IDs in the US while perfectly classifying fraud. So we will be the only service in the US market to be able to verify 100% of good IDs and completely eliminate identity fraud for every new applicant on the internet. And to do that, there's a lot of underlying services. But we have developed every single dimensions of ID, whether you onboard with a document or you onboard with PII. Socure is going to be the first company to provide that, which is super exciting for me in whatever seat I'm in. It's something that I'm very, very, very excited to work with our team to deliver in 2021, which we expect will, for the entire FinTech ecosystem, completely change the economics of lost accounts, of lost customer experience, of being able to enable to serve 18, 20, 21-year-olds, folks that are new to country, folks that are thin file. And so, we're really, really excited to be the first company to be able to positively verify 100% of good IDs and completely eliminate identity fraud for new applicants on the internet.
Well, those are some exciting features that I'm looking forward to seeing this year, and that's a great trend to look forward to. Beyond that, I know you recently wrote about some of your trends and predictions for the entire finance industry in 2021. What are some of the big trends or takeaways that you expect to come to fruition this year that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest ones is around, the buy now, pay later movement. Certainly with Klarna and Affirm, you're seeing the ability as, everything moves to e-commerce, is the ability to have real-time funds availability, not have to go open a credit card, but be offered, real-time credit, 0% APR credit as you're making a purchase. So that's something that we see growing 75%. It's one of the fastest growing spaces in all of FinTech. I think the second is, continuing to see the rise of these mobile first, beautifully designed, beautiful user experience ecosystems of trading. I think you have a new population that is, not looking to go to Schwab or E-Trade. And, if you've spent any time in like Public's application, there's this unbelievable ecosystem and network of individuals engaging around financial services, around the market, around financial literacy. And so it's really great to see folks like Public, folks like Stash, really invest in financial literacy and bringing in this, network of individuals in a way that, 2008, 2009, 2010, like a lot of people were left completely out of the market. And I think at least with this recession, you're seeing these FinTech apps really step in and take that role, which I'm really excited by. And I think that when you look at like a Bridget or an Earnin or a Dave.com, I think this real-time micro loan is going to continue to grow, as is this trend, with Chime's credit builder, with Self and their credit builder service. So I think you're going to see more and more of this kind of securitization, which enables people who have no credit or low credit to build credit for themselves, or people. I mean, I've even done it, right? You load in your utility bill, your Spotify bill, your Netflix bill, and you pick up 12, 14, 16 points on your credit score. And so I think one of the things I'm most excited about, on kind of a positive note, is there's just a lot of these services that are really, really good for consumers, right? There's no overdraft, there's no unreasonable fees. And so there's a lot of people solving a lot of really exciting problems for consumers in a way that is really consumer friendly and a really good kind of tech enabled offering that just didn't exist, even a couple of years ago.
Well, Johnny, it's great to hear how financial literacy is going mainstream. It's as if junior achievement offline has gone online with all these excellent platforms we're seeing today. And the work that you're doing at Socure is fantastic here in 2021. Johnny Ayers, CEO and founder of Socure, thanks so much for joining us on the Voice of FinTech podcast.
Absolutely, David. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Voice of FinTech podcast. If you haven't already, check out also voiceoffintech.com, where you will find all the episodes and additional resources related to the podcast. You can also subscribe to Voice of FinTech on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or any other podcast app that you like. If you have any suggestions on the topics or guests, or how to make this podcast better for you, please email us at info@voiceoffintech.com. Happy to hear from you. Thank you.